Is it not? Now we're live. You can link in on the Doctor's Surgery on the YouTube channel. Please, I want everyone to get familiar with the Doctor's Surgery on the YouTube. It's because if we have to broadcast remotely 1 week, at least we can link in with the Omega FM, the Omega London TV Presents YouTube channel, as well as the Doctor's Surgery. So once you familiarize yourself with the YouTube, you can broadcast. We can come live via that broadcast if we have to. As long as it's safe to do so. We'll continue to come in and grace the studios of Omega Studio. So the coronavirus. I mean, we know that there's been. I think everyone's seen the videos now. There's been a lot of panic buying, and shops are essentially, what's the term that I want to use? Literally non-stop, right around the clock, whilst they're open, inundated with shoppers buying up a lot of surpluses into mitigate to get through, what is set to be a rough, at least 2 or 3 months here in the UK. Um, I do not want to be the pessimist, so I am hoping that things will not be as long lived in terms of the virus, um, uh, so to disrupt the UK per se so long. But how have you been preparing? Are you prepared, or are you happy to know that there is a supply line? Are you going by the government's guideline? Are you worried about yourself or your children? So that it'll be good to know if you're worried about yourself or your children. Let us know. Do you have any questions, but you don't want to call into the major stations, but you might have your questions that you want to pose? Again, the number is 0753 996 8143. I'll give that again, 0753 996 8143. So it'll be interesting to note, and get your guys point of view on the matter. I'm not going to dwell too much on it unless we get some calls in and around it, because the reason why I'm not going to dwell too much on it is simply because um, we don't want to be replicating what's already been done in the national press in an effective way if everyone feels all the information they're getting is up to date and relevant. So for myself, it's a case of just waiting to see what you guys are saying. So 0753 996 8143. Make it a worthwhile day for me today, for us, the producer and I, taking the time out to come into the studio to to do the show. I hope it's appreciated. Because like I said, we had to wait up, and we we were on the verge of perhaps not doing so. But we said, what, we're probably being a bit what's the word, melodramatic. We don't want to create mass hysteria and panic, like, in a lot of senses. But are you prepared? Have you got enough food in your house? Have you got the funds, the finances to purchase food? Have you got enough water in your house? Again, the same question will go: have you got enough finances to get those things? Have you got the finances to be able to take time off work? Are you self-employed? Are you reliant on a specific job to that may shut down, an industry that may shut down, to pay your bills? We know that the government has effectively said that people shouldn't be gracing restaurants, bars, um, what else? Pubs, clubs. How is that going to impact on you and your livelihood? Do you own a restaurant? Are you a restaurant owner in the community, in the Black community? Are you an African or Caribbean restaurant owner? I'd love to hear from yourself to know what measures are in place to help you mediate this process. Are you or do you run a pub? Or do you know someone that do? Do you work in a pub or a restaurant? How is it working out for you at the moment? How are things going? It'll be interesting to get an idea from yourself as to where you stand and how worried or concerned you are. And if not, what's the reassurances that you have that you are happy to share with the public so that we can get everyone else reassured? Are you elderly? As you know, the greatest risk um, is said to be within the over 60 group. How are you going to be able to get around to access your supplies? you know um, how are you able to get around and do what you need to do? Are you able to get around and do what you need to do? Have you got a strong support network, family wise and friends to assist? And if not, what are you aware of what measures are in place to help you? And if not, it'll be good to hear from you so that we can um, look into for yourself and get you the most relevant information on here whilst we're on here. So we just thought, today's show we should take a more community based approach. There were quite a few more things within the media that we could have touched on for this week, but because of the hysteria, I guess if it's the right word, in the media in and around the coronavirus, with traveling to the countries like I know that Jamaica, for one, is a country that has asked its residents living in the United States, Canada, and the UK. When I say its residents, a lot of us in the UK, we have strong ties to the Caribbean and Africa. So I know Jamaica said that they're asking for a lot of those residents not to return, or not to travel there at the moment. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that's right for the health minister in Jamaica to do? As you know, the reason for that is that we know that Jamaica got their first case. The first two cases took place because of a flight from the UK to Jamaica where that infection was brought there by two patrons. And if you were one of those people that was pushing it on social media via WhatsApp, Instagram, and all these media outlets that black people cannot get the coronavirus, we addressed that a week or two ago, and we highlighted the foolhardiness in this approach. One, the moment you start saying something can't affect black people, one, you put them at risk for someone to drain someone of their blood to find out why they can't get it. What I mean? We all know how they do that. And if that's the case, so you keep those things chum and shut. And the other two, if it's like, if it was inappropriate and false reporting, inaccurate, I should say, and false reporting, then, who are you putting at risk? Because you leave people with a sense of safety and security, which perhaps happened to a lot of these people that heard that black people can't get the coronavirus and etc., etc., which left a lot of people in a compromised scenario situation. So we have to be very responsible and be very mindful within the community in what we push within the media. Does everyone understand the government strategy when they talk about well, the government denies wanting herd, or is it herd immunization or herd? I can't remember the word. At the moment, the question go. The reason why this herd philosophies come about is because they don't want to close the schools, and with the facts that they don't want to close the schools, are your children still going to school? Are you still sending your children to school, or what is the situation? How do you feel about that? If your children are going to school, be interesting to know from parents as well. But this herd philosophy is that the children aren't impacted significantly by it. As a result, those children will be passing it on in and amongst themselves. They would be taking it home to the parents. Parents and family would then isolate for 2 weeks, and over that period of time, the body's defenses will build up antibodies against the virus, unless it takes a very bad turn, at which point you're supposed to, if it gets worse, if you got a cough or temperature or difficulty breathing, and it gets its symptoms are exacerbated, they get worse, then you contact the emergency services. And the reason around this is because there are not enough respirators. For those who don't know, there's not enough respirators in the UK to cope for a mass dilemma. So if too much people get severely ill at the same time, the NHS would not be able to cope. And this is what they're talking about when they talk about the rate of infection. They talk about trying to push the peak or stretch the peak out over a prolonged period, as opposed to a sharp spike, which they're trying to avoid, because then the health service will crash. There's not enough beds and there are not enough respirators. On the news we hear them asking to, we hear them saying that they're looking to source respiratory devices from the manufacturers, and but as been made quite clear, the UK is one of many countries that have the governmental wealth or the financial wealth to buy respirators, so they're in a big queue and so the manufacturers of these devices are under heavy duress to produce quite a significant amount of these devices to actually, supply all the countries that need or require them, which is practically going to be every country, because even if a country isn't suffering currently from those symptoms of the coronavirus, eventually that will occur there in those jurisdictions, and it will be prudent for those countries to also have in stock the necessary devices and tools at their disposal, so that they themselves can also treat their citizens and look after them whilst they're in that scenario. There are a lot. When I say there are a lot, there's so much information which the general press will call conspiratory information on the internet going around and being shared about this virus. And have you got any concerns in about any of them specifically? Do you feel something is being hidden in these dimensions? It'll be good to kind of get a gauge or a guidance from anyone out there in terms of where things stand in relation to this current matter, just so that we can have a greater stance, a greater idea of what's going on in the mindset of those of you, the listening public, in relation to the virus. So, let's talk. The number is 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. We're not going to go in depth with anything much today. We just want to keep having an informative discussion in around those current matters, because yes, we feel that because of the mass hysteria at the moment in regards to this matter, that it's prudent and wise that we allow for our community to also discuss it in a informative way that will be beneficiary. So we're not here to scaremonger or mispresent any information or misrepresent any information. Probably a better way of putting it. We just want to make sure that we are informed enough so that we make the best decisions for each and every one of our own and ourselves. Have you not stocked up yet? Have you already stocked up? A lot of people, I've seen a video with a household where someone had every single corner of their house stocked up. So we all know where to go shop if needs be. And bear with me, London. I just need to take this phone call. Bear with me. OG, long time I was trying to call you, man, but I'm live at the moment. Uh-huh. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not on the monitor though. It's not showing up. Mm-mm.
It says fetch and stream.
It says fetching stream. It's not gotten it yet.
Video stream, yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll do that anyway when it comes on. Yeah, because I need to go back live. Innit? All right, cool. All right, no worries. All right. Yes, London, we apologize about that. Just had to take the call to make sure that the stream of the show is going live via the Omega London TV Presents YouTube channel. So if you want to watch live, you can watch live. If you want to take part again, remember the number is 0753 996 8143. 0753 996 8143. Live, or you want to text in. If you're listening, let us know you're listening, because we don't know if you're listening. Let us know that you're listening. Give us a drop call, give us a missed call, give us a text message, give us a call and say we're here listening. I can go into a little bit more information when I know I have a couple of listening audience. But when I don't know if anyone's listening, it's hard for me to even start to just keep talking. It's not the most motivating scenario. So give me some motivation. 0753 996 8143. 0753 996 8143. Do you feel the Boris Johnson government is handling the matter as best as possible? Do you feel that things are in a very poor state? Or do you think that everything is in hand? The government is doing a cracking job and everything is in hand? Or is the global approach fractured and uncoordinated, making it does it make it more difficult? Or do you feel that it has to be done in this way because each and every country has different burdens on their healthcare system and on their resources? So each and every country has to tailor make their response to their current scenario. So it'll be good to actually and get your take on all of this. So it'll be interesting. So if you want to take part, it's 0753 996 8143. 0753 996 8143. You had a caller?
Nope.
No?
Jane, you're doing a great job. She's listening.
Oh.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you, caller. What's that? 258. We do appreciate the call to let me know that, let us know that you're listening. Thank you very much for that. So it's interesting, within our community, because historically the Black community has always been at the brunt of the most extreme circumstances within society over the centuries, over the last 4 or 5 centuries. And we've become acclimatized or accustomed to going through hardship. So this scenario for us, in a lot of people, I see a lot of very calm Black folks. They're very calm, they're very laid back. I mean, the producer called this pandemic the Richmond's disease.
Here.
And when I questioned why the Richmond's disease, is because you want to explain yourself?
Okay. I don't know how true this is, but from what I researched, they basically said that the origins of the disease was in wild animals, and in accordance to China, the wild animals are only ate by the people who are rich, not by the normal everyday people. So then what happened is that the rich people ate these rare animals or these wild animals, and then it spread amongst them, and they're the only ones that have the money to I guess,
to travel.
Yeah. So then once they traveled, that's how it spread amongst the everyday person, but it originated from the people, the elite, in accordance to the video. That's what they were saying.
Oh man. So I mean, there's so much there. I have had. I don't know if it's the privilege or the curse of hearing so many different series and scenarios about how the virus got started and how it spread. And the reason why I say curse is because some of the notions that have been presented that are very plausible, I would never repeat them. You know, I would not even share it on social media or anything. I know a lot of people share a lot of stuff on social media simply because there a lot of them are so daunting because there are a lot of doomsday activists out there. And one thing we have to do to survive, as the government is put it, is to look out for one another in the best way possible. We do not want to descend into anarchy for something that might be in the format that it is being presented by the government, or it could be very skewed along the lines on either sides for different points of it. You know, so the key thing that we have to look at is that as a community, we have elderly within our community. How do we look out for those elderly black folks that can't access and get around? You know, the ones that potentially may not have that strong family support and that network. Are there is their infrastructure being put into place? You know, if people are aware of this information, you know, within London, whether all the various boroughs, if you are from those various boroughs, if you're listening in any borough at the moment and you can hear us, then we'd be keen to hear from you in terms of what's out there for people within the community so that we can get the information out to our people as a part of that package so that they know what they can access. Likewise, if you are a bit more savvy in the business world and you're a bit more in tune to what's going on with the finances and what resources are there for small businesses, we'll be keen to also hear from you so that we can get the information out there for our small business owners or restaurateurs or club owners or promoters and all these people out there that whose livelihood um, will be more than likely be significantly impacted on over the next few months, coming months, simply because of this outbreak. And in a sense, you know, we have to look out for each and every one of us, but family first, as they say. So with we have to make sure that our family is good. And so we love to hear from each and every one of you guys out there that, you know, from the community that can share some information to make it easier for someone out there that may not be in a fortunate position, you know, to actually help themselves. You know, and there's a lot of good people out there. I'm not talking about the ones that spent their life fiddling away and not storing their acorns. We're just talking about the ones that society may have dealt a bad hand and they're just in a bad place. What information is out there that we can access so we can share that via our media sources, which is the basic community stations that we have. You know, because we cannot really access information via the national apart from what everyone else gets via the national press, because it doesn't really cater specifically for our community, apart from when there's a crime committed and they plaster our young men for foolhardy ventures right across the newspapers. That's the only time we get like looked at properly under the microscope, when it's something extremely negative. So let's do some positive stuff for ourselves. And, you know, even though, like I said, we are so acclimatized to difficulty that we all should know what we should be doing, but it doesn't seem like it sometimes. You know, um, when we see videos of people in shops telling off shopkeepers for wearing protective gear, as if a shopkeeper shouldn't look out for their own safety and their family's safety. Little things like that. And we say we forgive the fool for doing foolhardy stuff. And I'm not specifically calling that person a fool. I'm just making up a saying based on a foolish action. And when we see foolish action like that, we have to kind of pull it up and say, yo, fix up. Make sure that things are done correctly, and appropriately. And this virus, be whatever the spew on it, whether it's a virus or whether, we know that the national media, they've covered the issue in and around the link to 5G, and they've made their statement. They've covered the information around the sulfur dioxide in the air over Wuhan, and they've made their statement. All these things you can Google and you can see. The reason why I don't want to push it is because there's an official government and perspective on all those things that have been pushed out according to the national media. And if we kind of go too much to the left of that, we could be creating mass hysteria. If we go to the right of that, we could be ruffling feathers. And not to say I give really a monkeys about ruffling feathers. It's just that sure that the information that we're giving is helpful to the community, as opposed to just trying to sound intellectual. It's not about or whatever it is. It's the relevance of the information. So we want to keep it relevant to being helpful, and so that people can get things done. The things that people are panicking about, yeah, I would say it's good to have, I always have a backup of food. And if you can get some food backed up, you don't have to panic buy. You can take your time and I mean, and stock up. This should have been done a long time ago, to be frank, for all the black folks out there. I can't understand why black folks are in the crazy queues unless they just touching up. True? Because black folks should be the ones that are always the most paranoid or the most hypersensitive, simply because we are always the brunt of the harshest part of these things. So whenever there's a crisis, we're supposed to be best prepared, because we know they will always try to hit us hardest with the impact of these crises. So if you're at home and you have no water and you have no emergency rations, so not foods that you plan to eat over the next week or two, but just food that can keep you tided over, just in case you have to stay in your house under quarantine, you can cook. You can't too much be reliant on a delivery service that could break down or become overburdened. So have a little bit of food and water in your house so you can tide over those 14 days, the recommended 14 days, at a bare minimum, if you can afford it, at a bare minimum. There's plenty of guides of guidelines online in terms of like what kind of stuff you can stock for long-term survival plans, if that's the case, if that's something that people want to look at. That information is readily available. So these are things that people should, naturally be doing. Just a little bit of food and water. You don't have to go OTT. You don't have to panic buy, because there are things that will, for now, be readily accessible. So just take your time and get these things. Don't panic. And that's the worst part of things, the panic buying. And this is why over the weeks we didn't really delve into the coronavirus issue so much, so because we did not want to add to or help to create the hysteria that is now causing the panic buy. So as I don't need to worry about going to everything all right. Which is what it is. So the number is 0753 996 8143. If you not got any questions about that, I'm going to roll on into the into the Harvey Weinstein scenario and how it's relevant to Black folks in a second. So 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. It's the Dr. Surgery, Britain's first Black current affairs show, dealing with current affairs of anything that's been discussed in the media in the last week, or the international press within the last week, that's pertinent and relevant to our community. We do our best to stay away from excessive bits on entertainment. Why? Because there's so much entertainment shows that we don't need to help to impress that narrative. We want to discuss those serious issues, whether it's the markets, whether it's health, whether it's just the basic economy. What else? Anything that's pertinent to us, whether it's the psychological impact of things on us as a people. Because one of the key things that, or before this coronavirus, anyways, that's created this massive distraction. One of the key things that they would do within the media and the press is to push out narratives that that down the line equates to something that's always negative impact on us as a people. And so the purpose of this show is to counter that negative narrative. And with that negative narrative being pushed, we can see it and I give you an example using the coronavirus scenario. When the Wuhan scenario popped up in China, we know that approach to remedy the issue was seen as draconian, and now Europe in itself, being the new epicenter of the virus, is going on post-war footing. So literally, Europe is going into a phase as if they're at war, and so what has changed? The philosophy before was all that the Chinese were draconian. It was all negative within the press, but all of a sudden, their approach is now the recommended approach. We have a live caller.
Yes.
All right, bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I can get this caller to go live. Bear with me, caller. Oh, that's the right one. Let me see. Just scroll here. Caller, you live? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, caller? Oh, that's not working. Let me try a different approach.
Yes.
Sorry, caller. It's my fault. I don't know why the equipment is letting me down at this stage. How are you doing, caller? You're live.
I'm great, thanks.
Please share your
Yes,
thoughts.
I'm good. And you?
I'm doing my best.
Yes, and you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Where are you with your preparations for the coronavirus? Is it of concern for you or your family?
No, not really, to be honest, because not really. We're not bothered. We're only concerned. Curious about what's going on, because there's something not really connecting when I speak with the children. But some time ago there was a film on the television named Purge.
Okay.
And it's similar in a way. It's only that it's in a different way with there's not gun shooting a lot, but it's
So you feel the official lines that's being pushed in the media is not consistent with what's actually taking place?
Yes, yeah. There's an hidden agenda there.
Do you feel the hidden agenda is away from the virus, and the virus is being used as a distraction, or do you feel that
the virus is used as a distraction?
I'm conflicted at the moment.
There's an hidden agenda.
I'm not disagreeing.
Because if you look at it, there is this agenda, and this is the way to push it further, because there's so many. That's what I'm looking at. That's just one scenario. Yeah. Right. That
I'm hearing you.
there is this agenda to push. Right. So with them
Yeah.
Because they said they're going to be putting the army and the police on the road that they're going to be equipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's going to have an impact on the black world because you know they like together.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready in the little crew. And I'm saying to my lot that they need not to stay outside and be out in group because apparently where is it? I'm reading yesterday that it's done. In America, if you're more than 10 people,
Mm-hmm.
right, they're going to be breaking up the group.
I mean, the UK yesterday stated that I hope I'm not misquoting that gatherings of small and large gatherings are not allowed. So a small gathering as 5 is seen as a small gathering, and they emphasized and stressed the minimalizing social contact. So friends meeting friends without valid reason.
Yes.
So, I mean, so in a sense, we're almost in a state per se of recommended martial law as opposed to martial law itself.
Exactly.
Now, is that a negative, or is it a positive move to try to stem something that the government may know a little bit more about than the general public?
Mm-hmm. All the international countries, you look at it, they all collaborate together.
So is it a negative thing that they're doing with the recommendation, or is it a positive thing to keep us safe?
How can it be positive when you can't be in contact with your loved ones? So I'm not a doctor that's been here, and I'm not children.
Mm-hmm.
So most likely I'm not going to be able to have that contact of you if they lock down for not going to be 2 weeks. Everybody looking at this, but they it's going to be 2 weeks. They're dreaming.
So are you in the bracket of the more vulnerable groups, or are you below that? I don't want to ask you.
At this moment, my son and I run a little business.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we do cooking from home, so that's going to affect us.
Mm-hmm.
Because our own, it's a small business. So so that's going to affect us at the moment. So I'm like looking like we have got surplus money and food. But I'm not gone off and do the panic buying. I've just done a little bit. So I need to really go and get the rest out. I need it, but I'm not overstressing it because I know food is going to be there.
No,
I just need to know what food I'm going to get.
This is the question though that I'm asking London and the listening audience. I'm asking them how is this impacting on your business, and if it's going to impact on your business, and what then? Do you understand the government policies to know how it can benefit you?
I've been looking around because I haven't spoken to my son yet. Because he's young, he's like, no tax, it's all nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just thinking about earning his money for his livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so no, we haven't. Because when you say, because I've been looking yesterday, the government has set aside money for small business. But I was wondering, how do you go about it? I've done that research.
Yeah, I mean, from the little I understood, and again, don't misquote me. If you got a business bank account, you're supposed to be able to access some funding for small businesses from anything up to 1.2 million pounds. So obviously, it's going to be the relationship you have with your bank for in that sense. But in a lot of cases within the Black community, a lot of the businesses are fledgling businesses that per se may not have a business bank account set up as yet, because everything is in the early stages, and think a lot of people are just starting out that have invested quite a lot in their businesses, but things aren't as fundamental. Our relationship with their bank hasn't been established. So it's a massive gray area for startups and people that are well into getting things off the ground.
Yeah, we've just started.
Mm.
So that's another thing as well.
So a lot of investment, but not the historical background to grant you access to those.
No. The cover just 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, London's listening. If anyone knows how we can access, so to help each other, this is why I'm asking, because there's so much that we may not have, and we haven't got the capacity to ask these questions in those press conferences. So we want to get this narrative flowing, so that eventually someone with me hear it that has a voice to speak on our behalf in those scenarios, or to get the answers. Or if you have the answers, we'd love to hear from you.
No, I don't. If I did, I would have asked it.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. Speaking to the general public, if they have the answers to give us some further insight, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from all of them.
Okay, all right, thank you. Keep listening.
I've been doing that ever since the dinner.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're coming off the radio like you say all the and you do give some good information, honestly.
Okay.
I'm listening here. That's what I do most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Get the information, which is good.
Okay.
I'm not that articulate like you.
No, but it's good to hear from everyone, so that we know that people are listening. So we do appreciate the call and going live.
But you're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you. We'll keep doing our best.
Lady, oh God, reminding something else.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, she is.
Yeah.
She said she had watched the nonsense song. I haven't watched nonsense song. I just saw the advert and I go, I'm not watching that. That's what I said.
So I'm going to let her come in with the nuts and crossing after I have my little chat and ramble about the Harvey Weinstein situation, to which we disagree with her and I, but hey, we can't always agree on the same premises. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A lot of fire, which is good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the call. Yes, London. If you want to take part in the show, 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. As the caller said, they're in the fledgling stages of their businesses, because a lot of business go through what we call, for lack of a better word, a pilot phase, a testing phase, where you see if it will work before you go and stamp your foot in with company's house and open a business account and take the plunge fully. You do a lot of general background, reconnaissance. You do your thing to make sure that once you decide that this is what I'm definitely going to do, you jump deep head in. And there's a lot of businesses within the community that are in these early phases. Some, it will be a lost investment, and some it's a genuine investment that would have gone on to something that commercially would have been very viable and successful. How do those businesses benefit from the government now in these early stages? And what about those recently established businesses that have gone through that phase? They're thousands of pounds in, and now they're taking the plunge even deeper. How do those businesses stand the test of survival right now during this tumultuous period, for lack of a better word? Because at the end of the day, I was listening to those media houses this morning in the shower, as I normally do with my general research, because like I say, it's a current affairs show where we discuss what they've been discussing over the last week and the narrative that they've been pushing. We remedied the narrative towards our community. And one of the things that was quite shocking was that one of the business and financial correspondents, he was quite stumped because Dixon's car phone warehouse is gone out of business. They're going to close all stores in relation to Dixon's car phone warehouse. I don't know if this Dixon's car phone warehouse is separate from car phone warehouse itself, because I know there was a slight merger along the way, somewhere along the line. And so it might be some unique aspects to the brand. So it may not be Carrefour Warehouse per se as a brand, but it might be, I don't know, someone else could. I didn't look it up because it was just only this morning. So do you work for Dixon's Carrefour Warehouse? And how is that going to impact on you going into this current crisis? There's so much happening, and the financial the spokesperson for the station that look at these economical, the one that overviews the economical impact of these things, he seemed to be lost for words. The way that he said he doesn't know if it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, or what the process of shutdown is going to be. It just goes to show you how lost even the most informed are, or whether they are so lost because they get certain information they can't put out, and it's just stumped them for words in terms of where they would normally find something to say. And if it's that they're so stumped for words, what do they know that the public don't know? Like I said, um, my tone might be a bit melancholy today, and that's simply because the amount of information that's been sent to me, should some of these be true, it's very daunting. But then again, we do know about those doomsday naysayers. Um, we have to think about. So it says Britain's biggest electrical and mobile phone retailer said it would close all standalone Carphone warehouse stores on the 3rd of April, and that it would focus on selling mobile phones through its shop in shops in 305 big Curry's PC worlds and stores online and online. So all those Carphone warehouse shop fronts that you see in and around. So literally all the ones that say Carphone warehouse are gone.
Yeah.
That's a big impact on a lot of those high streets.
Yeah, most of those.
Most of those are gone. And that's how is that going to impact on you? And the Carphone warehouse was a giant.
Yeah. They had like 2 stores in Harrow.
So what's happened? Aren't people still buying mobile phones no more?
It's a case of you're buying mobile phones, but I guess if China's locked down, then how are you meant to?
Go on, say that again.
Okay. My logic is if China's locked down, then I guess they don't have the resources to make the phone.
They don't,
or to produce the phone in that sort of quantity.
Or is it a case of protecting assets and so making a decision early? Because that's also viable, the protection of assets by shutting down early. But yeah, it's impacting enough on a lot. It's the Drs Surgery. You know how we do it each and every Tuesday from 8 until 11. We bring you what we call the current affairs of the day for the past week. The Drs Surgery is Britain's first Black current affairs show that deals with all the current affairs issues that's within the media that's been highlighted per se over the past week. As you know, the biggest things within the media over the past week has been the coronavirus. So we're discussing it predominantly this morning, as most media outlets are, talking about the impact on the community and getting the best information out there as best as possible, and making it a little bit in the community. Let us know how it's impacted on you and what assistance you need. If you are a young person out there and you're confused by the whole thing, or if you're just someone that just don't buy into the whole hoopla and the whole hype, let us know. 0753-996-8143. I want to go on to the next topic area briefly, and this one is a bit of a delicate one. And as I said, the producer and I are somewhat at odds. And the reason being is that over the years, some 20 years ago, I started looking into the, and so I'm a bit more in an experienced position, as the producer like to say, than the producer herself on the matter. She's saying I'm throwing shade, but I'm not. But it's the reason why I'm saying this is that it's such a delicate subject matter that we have to walk and tread carefully through it. Now, the Harvey Weinstein situation, we know that the delicate subject matter is that dreaded and hated 4-letter word, rape. And we know that the IST on that RAP is one of the most hated, that 6 letter word it becomes, is they're one of the most hated people on the planet. Quite rightly. Now, when we review what's been taking place in the UK over the last couple of decades, we know that the conviction rates have been in decline, according to the national media and the national press, for these actions. And in the past, we know that there are past historical matters that have been swept under the carpet, such like the Jimmy Savile scenario
And Jeffrey Epstein.
and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, from, as I said earlier, in relation to the coronavirus scenario, I explained that whenever there's anything that's been discussed in the media, it tends to fall heavily or most heavy on the shoulders of us Black people. We tend to suffer the most consequences. So when I hear of rape and the accusation of rape within the general public, the first thing I always look at is, well, how is it going to impact on Black folks? How is it going to impact on us down the road? So I always have to go ahead.
Correction, black males.
All right, correction, black males. How is it going to impact on us Black guys down the road, so-called Black guys down the road? And how, and what's the agenda? Now, when the first case of this was that was brought to my attention was years ago, in as a part of a movement. A movement was brought down through the accusation within that movement. I won't call names because I don't want to open fresh wounds within that community. A movement was brought down because their leader or teacher was accused of such heinous crimes. And one of the things that that person said at the time, that leader for that organization said, that there is no support from his peers or those in the Black community, and they will not know what hit them until the tool has been turned against them. So ever since that statement, certain things that I find that don't digest when something is said and it doesn't digest with me, it's like it plays, when you eat something you shouldn't eat and it plays on your stomach. It's like when something is said and it plays on your mind, it doesn't settle. That's never settled. And over the years, every time something is brought up over those years, it brings me, it has always brought me back to that point of, is it a weapon? And then we had this modern day scenario over the last 10-15 years, starting with the whole Jimmy Savile and Jeffrey Epstein scenario that's snowballed into where we are today. And out of all of that over the years, apart from this year, the only person that has seen jail or prison time was a Black man, Bill Cosby. Now, I can remember when it panned out that, what's his name? The one that just got found guilty. Harvey.
Yeah.
Because, Black America Black America was very, very much against Bill Cosby. I listened to a lot of Black American talk shows, some that were rebroadcasted here on local community stations, and nothing positive was said about Bill Cosby. It was always consistently, Cosby thought he wasn't Black, he wasn't a part of the community. So it was as if the judgment against Bill Cosby was already set in stone, because his own had already said he threw himself under the bus. and no one was supporting him during that period. No one stood in that corner. And you would understand why. Because, like I say, that four-letter word is such a heinous word that it's extremely difficult for someone with clean hands and a clean heart to stand in the corner of someone that's been accused of such a heinous crime. You know, even if you want to support the person, you probably be standing off a bit because you don't want any of that dirt rubbing off onto you. And as such, you know, it's only after all these people that were currently under the cosh, only one got sent to prison. That's when Black America started saying, hold on a second here. All these people were accused, every single one of them, and the only person that you lot sent to jail was the black man. And it's only then they realized that it became, or it was, a weapon against the black man, because the others got away at the time scot free. And in a sense, the whole scenario was already too late. It's like you started getting a lot more people pushing out saying, you know, Bill Cosby was a pawn. He was sacrificed in the process. But by that stage, it was too late. He was already convicted. He was already in prison. He was already damned. His reputation is already in ruins. No matter what takes place now, he's already, whether he's found in the future to not have done what he's been accused of, he's already in the current the current eyes of the public to be a monster. And it's going to be impossible to go back in time and change that. Irrespective of what manifests in the future, at this moment in time, the man's a monster. As such, you know, I made the joke of a very bad situation with Harvey Weinstein to say that when Harvey Weinstein got put on trial, I said before how Harvey was convicted, in and amongst friends, Harvey must be cussing Bill Cosby now. And everyone was saying, why? And I said, well, because Harvey was saying, because Black America was so ferocious with the fact that Harvey was free and Bill was in jail, that you knew Harvey was going to be found guilty. Whether you thought it or not, it was just clear as day. And his lawyers tried to put that point across in court as well, to say public opinion was already turned against him because of the negative information that was being put in the press. And this is how powerful the press was, that had Harvey gotten off, I think women would have rioted in America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it just goes to show that, and I'm not saying Harvey is innocent. Like I'm saying, I don't want to stand and get that mud rubbed off onto me. I'm just saying, it just goes to show that whether you be innocent or you're guilty, once that mud is thrown on you, you will be guilty in the eyes of to what your position of innocence or guilt is. It's because it's one of the most, it's like a nuclear bomb, a dirty nuclear bomb. Once it explodes in a city somewhere, that whole city is contaminated. So once it explodes onto someone, that person is contaminated potentially for life. We've had the case in the UK. I can't remember if it's a year or two ago, where a young white guy spent 4 years in prison or 2 years in prison before the police found out that his accuser was a serial liar, and the accuser had sent several people to jail with the accusation that they had done that heinous crime to them. Now, the accuser was actually, I'm not going to call any names because I don't want any libel around this. The accuser was then found guilty of, corrupting justice, and that white gentleman was released. Now, you have to think how many black guys have gone through that scenario that has never seen the light of day again. And it's only because of circumstantial reasons because she attempted to do it again. And then in the gathering of evidence against that new victim, it was shown that that act never took place and that her actions in and around those prior convictions were for malicious reasons. So how do we balance that? How do we balance the heinous nature of this crime against the heinous act of the weapon? And what I mean by that, if I use the Harvey Weinstein and the Bill Cosby case, is that most of these women, and my producer argued with me about the R. Kelly scenario. I mean, gosh, I don't even know what to say because, again, like I said, public opinion has already found R. Kelly guilty so many times that I have to say guilty because some of the stuff that's come out, you know. But over the years, I do research and I look at things in a vast array of things. And even when I'm looking at something for entertainment purposes, for me, it's like research. And on YouTube over the past 10 years or so, there are things called gold digger pranks. And for me, the importance and the reason why I'm bringing this up is that gold digger pranks are pranks where you have a guy that would go up to a girl, a random girl, with his friends videoing from a distance, and try to get the girl's number or get the girl to come to go out to a meal. And in these pranks, the woman, normally an attractive female of different
Ethnicity.
ethnicities, would in these instances turn the guy down because they would make the guy look nerdy. In some cases the guy would look like a normal guy and so forth, but they would turn the guy down and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or they would make up some excuse. Some of them won't even talk to the guy. The guy would go away, or they would do something to come back to show that they had extreme wealth, whether it's someone delivering a car to them or bring them a briefcase and the money and the briefcase opens by accident and like hundreds of thousands of dollars would fall out and they would be packing their money up and shouting at their employee to say you're an idiot and stuff like that. Just something to make them look powerful and that they're a boss and they're wealthy. And in these gold digger pranks, immediately these women would change their perspective and want to date these guys. Some of these women will say, "Oh, I had a partner," and the next minute they know they're saying, and some of these gold digger pranks, you could see some of them were artificial, they were synthetic, made up, but some you could potentially give,
Authenticity. Authenticity.
you could see the authenticity, as the producer said, in a lot of these videos. So the fact of the matter is, you have Harvey Weinstein and you have Bill Cosby, powerful, rich men. And that's the key. Known powerful rich men. Just like how you have that guy up north, I don't want to call his name, that's going through the same scenario now, seen as one of the most powerful men in Scotland at one stage. Powerful, rich men. How does that pan out in actual principles? How does that pan out? How does that mitigate a woman's behavior towards those men? Because whenever in the gold digger pranks, the guy then turns around and says, "Hold on, I got a present for you," and she goes, "You do?" And she goes, "Yeah. Hold on." And he'll go into the boot of the car, he'll go somewhere and he'll get a gold shovel and go, "Here, you're a gold digger, so go digging for some gold." In some instances, the women get malicious. I've seen a case where the woman smashed the guy's expensive car, smashed it up, and then ran off. Now you can imagine if he had taken it a little bit further and done anything with that woman, what the tool of choice would be, whether it would be that most heinous act that should never take place with a woman, or whether it would be, you know. So we have to take a step back and realize that not only is it a heinous act, My position is that it's also a weapon.
Yeah.
And if it's also a weapon, we need to find the balancing between the heinous crime where those true perpetrators deserve to be punished and the weapon where those that have been tarnished by that dirty bomb get, what's the right word?
I need to help you out.
You know, help me out. You see, this is what I'm saying. She don't agree with me. That's why the mic's up. You catch everything she's saying, right? You know, what I mean, I had to put the mic up on the subtle. You know, so how, you know, how do you balance that out? And this is what I'd love to hear from you, the public, because if I say, you know, it's like I'm defending the dirty, because like I said, to the left you got the most heinous crime, and to the right you have the most atrocious weapon and dirty weapon that you perhaps could throw against someone. And we know this because you have basketball players, footballers, and all these people that and entertainers that's had this dirty bomb thrown at them. And it's only through PR and paying people and all these things that a lot of them keep their name clean. But then we know that with the tragedy of Mr. Bryant, Kobe Bryant, we know how the underhanded interview from that sick, dog-headed presenter. I ain't Snoop. I ain't gonna apologize. Yeah, I think Snoop's a punk for apologizing. But you know what I mean? How atrocious that could be, that was thrown again at a dead man who died in tragic circumstances so soon after his death.
Okay.
Go ahead. The floor is all yours.
There was a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot there. I think the problem is that often the time is the time. What we do is we often, instead of trying to get the victim story out, we're trying to protect an image of a black man. And I think that's what the problem is that you're telling young females and young people in general, don't worry about the crime that's happening, but as long as we protect the black man's image in the media, it's fine. So that's why R. Kelly gets me so riled up, because we're protecting a man that has committed crimes against young kids just so that it's a saving image of a dark-skinned black male. That is my problem.
Now, again, you and we had a discussion about in detail about Mr. Kelly's case.
Mm-hmm.
And the conclusion from that was that everything I said was correct. Now, in a nutshell, what am I wrong? In a nutshell, what I said was that if there was a statutory rape that took place, we can say a statutory rape took place. But in a lot of the instances that's logged and listed, it sounds very much not like rape, but more so, if anything, of exploitation because of the age. And if it's statutory rape, then statutory rape should be thrown in on the idiot as well. But we also have to look at the exploitation aspect of things, which is really the core of what is said to have happened, as opposed to the core being rape. It's not, because those women are saying they took part in his antics because he promised them a career. That is on their shoulders. That's a gold digger prank. But because of their age, I flag the exploitation factor because that is relevant to some degree.
So you're saying you're fine with misleading someone or giving them a premise for that action? That makes sense.
Guys will see a girl on the street every day and they will stop, talk to the girl, and push to get their number. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And when they're talking to that girl, some guys will promise the girl the world. if that guy doesn't give the girl the world as he promised, and it seemed in those moments that he could, or he can, but he chose not to, and then she gets angry and bitter, that's not rape. He might be a con artist in her eyes, but the weaponization of rape is then detracting away from those true cases where that heinous crime should be punished to the extremities, as opposed to those scenarios where it's used as a dirty bomb just out of anger and hate. And that in itself should be as serious a crime as the crime itself. That's all I'm saying, because it's a dirty bomb.
And I agree with that. My only problem is why are you promising something that you can't commit to or you can't give? And that's often the case, is that if a woman, or if something is promised to you, you have an expectation. If that expectation is not met, then obviously there's going to be some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Resentment towards that person.
Correct.
We're not going down that line.
I'm agreeing with you.
Resentment is made to that person, but the problem is that act of you're promising someone something and you're leading someone under false under a false impression, which is the same as the act of giving that dirty bomb to someone. It's that whole act of an impression that you can't.
But then, does it boil down to what the accusation would then be? And because someone was a fool to accept and take on foolish information to be gospel or fact, right? And because someone was evil in their intent, did that to the fool. And I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way, I'm just kind of keeping it raw. It doesn't mean that the evil intent was what the so-called fool that would then turn around and use as a fire stick to get back at revenge for the evil person. You get what I'm saying? So if that's the case, then there should be a law against misrepresenting or misrepresentation. But to use that as a weapon and to weaponize that, because I have to think of the black guys out there. How many black guys have been torn down or attempted to have been torn down because of a dirty bomb, especially from when they throw themselves on the bus because they're dealing with women outside of the race, and the women outside the race know once they go, the black guy did this, that black guy is going to be seen as guilty straight away because of how the media already presents and views black guys. Men in general, much less black guys. Do you get what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is we have to protect the true victims who have gone through such atrocities, because I don't think any woman should go through such an atrocity. And anyone that truly does that to a woman, they deserve the victimization they get inside prison. Because we do know that people that go through that, they go through hell in prison. But on the other side, imagine someone in prison going through hell that's never done that they didn't do that. It was just a weapon against them.
I agree with that, but then you spoke about the representation of black males in the media, hence why I went to the R. Kelly situation. And what I'm saying is that R. Kelly committed a crime. Right? So instead of trying to protect this image or this
accused allegedly, because he's not been found guilty yet, right? We have to make sure we clear it up. Go on, carry on. Yeah.
Okay. So instead of trying to protect this image, which isn't true in the situation of R. Kelly.
So an allegation is given, we're supposed to accept it immediately as guilt. There's evidence against.
That's why R. Kelly has lasted for so long. Is that because people refused, or there wasn't enough evidence to give that character towards R. Kelly. That's why he's lasted so long to this point.
What about
now.
Michael Jackson? You see, you cannot throw the one that you don't like under the bus and the one you like there's a different rule.
What evidence is there for Michael Jackson?
The same evidence that there is for R. Kelly, that these people that are saying when they were kids, this is what happened. It's just lip service. This, when I was young, this is what happened. This is what he told me. This is what happened. This is what he did.
And a lot of the time, those stories change between years to years. And
obviously, with the R. Kelly case, there's strong evidence in certain quarters. I'm not defending the idiot, and I'm not defending the indefensible. I'm just saying we have to have a balance rate within the community, because the community is already under attack, and it's not good to turn on ourselves and use these European moral philosophies to judge our own before our own can really get a true day in court, if that's the case.
So this is what I tried to say. R. Kelly has been going, what is it, since 1999? When was the first court case?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I thought it was
since Aliyah, I guess. That's the first allegation.
Yeah. So he's had all that time up until now, 2020, where people have given him the benefit of the doubt. And it's only now where they've amalgamated enough evidence to say this is perceived to be his character, or the crime that he's committed. So black people have given him the chance and the consistent allowance to say, we understand the media wants to present black men in that sort of image, and it's only now where we're saying no, that can't carry on. You can't keep giving out allowances when it's perceived, or there's strong evidence that someone has committed the crime.
So we shouldn't wait until the person gets their day in court.
How many times has R. Kelly been to court?
Well, if you go to court, well, remember, court is a game, right? Because what you play in court, what you play on a court is games, where you can go to court and you're innocent and you're found guilty simply because your lawyers were rubbish, and that's where appeals get certain things overturned or quashed, right? So a court is a game of whether you get found guilty or not. So it's not really the benchmark of justice, but let's say the British justice system is one of the best in standards of the lot. And so let's say or the US justice system is so skewed. Well, let's just say we live here in the UK, and we're talking about the UK per se, but we're using examples from globally. So should a person not get their day in court if that's the case? Because
Kelly's had his day in court several times,
and he won. That's why he's on the road.
But now it's got to the point now where there's evidence to suggest otherwise.
There was evidence then. That's why I went to court. You would not go to court without evidence.
You can't use the same evidence in each trial.
Right. And so I'm just saying there's always evidence. That's why it goes to court. See, I would love to hear from you after the news and advert break, London, or to the listeners, because I know that my producer and I will never fully see eye to eye. I'm of that little nuance that we have to protect those that are truly victims of this heinous crime. However, as a black male myself, and thinking about friends, family, and young ones coming up, there has to be a system of credibility that is a bit more set to allow and not to, when I say allow, what's a better way of putting that? A system set to better mitigate these circumstances where it doesn't weaponize against us within the community. Because you just need to think and say, if this was my child, as in a son, and likewise a daughter, if this was my child, what would I want? You want the truth and the best outcome, and this is all I'm saying: truth and best outcome, truth and best outcome. What I wanted to say about the Harvey Weinstein situation. We'll take some questions or some calls on the other side because it'll be good to know. And then we'll jump back into the main area of discussion in around the coronavirus again. But we just wanted to throw that in. We didn't want to stick so much so all the way through on the coronavirus today. So let us know what you think. Give us a call on this other side. The number is 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. I'd love to hear from any gender on the matter. But we'll catch you back on the other side after the news and the advert, stay tuned.
Media Radio 4.1 FM. News and views around